You know I know.
What's up, everybody? Getting to the tail end of this week on biology. Today has the potential to get a little scientific and in the weeds, so I'm going to do my best to describe the idea of how we take in energy and use it without getting too Jimmy Neutron. Energy is generated by our bodies through the consumption of calories, specifically carbohydrates, fat, and protein. When we consume this food, it is broken down into chemical energy, which is obtained by, and this is by far the most important and sophisticated term I'll use today, ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. Okay, if you're still with me, ATP is the energy-carrying molecule that lives in all cells. Its job is to take the chemical energy it gains and deliver it to fuel other cellular processes. Without ATP in our lives, we would be immobile, not able to do anything, nada. Now, one caveat, ATP is produced and used very quickly. Literally one day, ATP is produced and converted to this amount of ATP molecules, roughly equal to our body mass. ATP is really good at delivering energy to other cells, but it doesn't store energy, which is done by glucose and other means. This is because ATP is 3 times bigger, but only holds 1% of the energy of glucose. Okay, so glucose. Yes, glucose is transformed into ATP as an energy resource for us to use. This comes back to the food we eat, carbs, fat, and protein. Each provides a different energy resource for us to use. Carbohydrates provide a highly effective source for fuel. Because the body requires less oxygen to burn carbohydrates as compared to protein or fat, carbohydrates are considered the body's most efficient fuel source. Carbohydrates are increasingly vital during high-intensity exercise when the body cannot process enough oxygen to meet its needs. Fat is pretty special. Whereas carbohydrates burn fast, fat provide more than twice the amount of potential energy that carbohydrates and proteins do. During exercise, our extensive fat reserves are broken down into fatty acids and transported to the muscles for fuel. This process, though, occurs slowly. They don't burn as fast because they're more concentrated. This helps fuel low to moderate intensity activity. At rest and during exercise performed at or below 65% of aerobic capacity, 50% or more of the fuel is provided from fat. In order for fat to fuel exercise, however, sufficient oxygen must be simultaneously consumed, which is where aerobic capacity and intensity training workouts really comes into play. Lastly, protein. Protein isn't typically used for energy production, but rather is used to help build, maintain, and restore body tissues. Protein can come into play when our glycogen stores from carbohydrates are depleted, but this really only happens during intense, long endurance activities. So hopefully now this gives you more of a holistic sense for how you create and use energy. There's definitely more science to this, so feel free to check into my sources in the notes. All right, that's all I got for today. We'll see you tomorrow for our last day on biology.